Well, it's today with the bushfire crisis, and crews around the state are back burning ahead of another feared day of danger. Later on this week, Kimberly Pratt is live for us near the town of Badalla. Now, Kim, you have an update right now on the victims of the fires.
Hugh, we've just learnt that this bushfire season so far has claimed the lives of 20 people. That is from right across the state, from as far north as Coomba down south to Jinjilico. But we know that among them, that includes 3 RFS volunteers, 3 women, and the rest are men. Now, 2 of those men were found here in Nerragunda and nearby Barowla. And I've spent the day here talking to the crew here, and they have got an incredible near-death experience, but also some absolute devastation, because 2 days ago, after that experience, they were then called in to assist police in the retrieval of those 2 men, their neighbours. So the devastation here, Hugh, is just endless at the moment.
Kimberly Pratt, thanks for keeping us up to date. Well, this could be one of the great survival stories of the bushfire crisis. A handful of RFS volunteers have told of being trapped in their tiny community on the south coast. The firestorm so fierce, the air itself, they say, was catching fire. One survivor says it looked like molten lava coming towards them. They took shelter in the RFS base, physically holding the door closed as the flames raged around them. Kimberly Pratt has this exclusive report.
Nerragunda, a historic gold town, now 360 degrees of grey. But it owes a lot to these heroes in blue and gold.
I look down the hill and there's a house that exploded, and then this house exploded, and then suddenly flames were everywhere.
It was 2 in the morning on New Year's Eve when brigade members were woken to the roar of the firestorm.
I heard Mum screaming, like for me to wake up. I ran outside and all you could hear was just this deafening roar through like the whole valley.
All they could see was red on the horizon, the ridge covered in flames.
It was another 20 metres above the trees. It was just roaring across the ridges.
This wasn't no fire, this was a storm.
Sisters Siobhan and Skye were almost overrun, making their last-ditch efforts to protect their house.
I was just screaming out to her like I thought I was going to lose my sister.
They were forced to flee to the fire shed, like many others.
The shed's filled with smoke and then the doors buckled in and we all had to press against the doors because there was embers shooting in, and we just, like, we literally thought we were dead.
It was so hot that we couldn't hold it with our hands. We had to turn around and put our backs against the roller door.
The brigade was trapped inside for more than 15 minutes, waiting for that front to clear. When it did, it was 4:30 in the morning and their fight still wasn't over. Their group captain and other crews were trapped in a neighbouring town, and they were determined to get to them. It took a day, relentlessly chainsawing through trees before they found them.
And when we finally got to them, everyone was in tears. Everyone was hugging each other. Everyone, like, you had big tough blokes bawling their eyes out.
Back in their hometown though, everything was gone. 95% of homes now flattened, even the newly renovated church. A cruel day for a town made up of volunteer firefighters.
I hate this place, honestly. Like, I don't want to come back here.
Ash was one of the worst hit in the brigade. He recently lost his wife and was prepared to lose his home, but not his dog.
Could always do something better. So, would have sent my dog into town.
You can count the homes left standing on one hand. Here the flames were at the back door with an exploded gas bottle at the front. It's home to Nerragunda's RFS captain Ron. He and his 3 children nearly didn't make it into the new year.
What went through here, it's like a fire like this, there's nothing that can stop it. So, and I can't imagine other people having to go through what we had to go through.
But still, they're helping others, preparing for the next one to hit. Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.
Go back to the bushfire crisis now. In a town of volunteer firefighters have described how they feared they would die as a bushfire consumed their small neighbourhood. Kimberly Pratt is live near Badalla for us tonight. This is an incredible survival story, Kimberly.
Oh, Hugh, I mean, here in Nerragunda, there is not a lot left. As you can see behind me, homes have been flattened, even the newly renovated church. But I'm told after speaking with the crews today that this town is so lucky it didn't lose more. These RFS members had an incredibly close call when the fire bore down on New Year's Eve. It was a three-pronged fire that came over the entire town. They watched as homes were just exploding all over the place, and many were forced to seek shelter inside the fire shed. Now, while they were in there, it was just filling with smoke, and that roaring wind managed to hit the roller door and open up the roller door, spitting embers inside the shed with them. They were just sitting inside, waiting, praying that the sprinkler system fitted to the building saved them.
A second late, probably wouldn't have been here. And if it hadn't been for the fire shed with the sprinkler system, the shed would have 100% melted.
And we got in the shed's filled with smoke, and then the doors buckled in, and we all had to press against the doors because there was embers shooting in, and we literally thought we were dead.
It was so hot that we couldn't hold it with our hands. We had to turn around and put our backs against the roller door and just hold it there to stop the wind blowing it in. It was that close, though.
Now, as you heard, I mean, that is incredibly scary, and they realised that it was that sprinkler system that saved their lives. Now, they are now using this to call for these systems to be installed on all remote, if not all fire stations, particularly as this bushfire threat gets worse this summer. Hugh.
Well, here's to the Threlfall family and all their mates there. Kimberly Pratt, thank you.
When three bushfires converged on the village of Nerragunda in southern New South Wales last summer, locals were incredibly lucky to survive. Almost all are rural fire service volunteers who found themselves trapped inside their fire shed as flames raged around them. 10 News First's Kimberly Pratt went back to check in on them, still living in the ruins of their village after facing more fires, floods and now coronavirus.
This was Nerragunda 5 months ago.
The fire is surrounding us now.
As three separate blazes closed in.
And it's creating its own thunderstorm above it.
Terrifying the tight-knit community. They'd woken to a glow on the ridge in the early hours of New Year's Eve.
And it was just little spots here, bang, bang. And you could see the embers sort of hopping across, and then all of a sudden it just went bang, absolutely went bang.
Colin Brennan, who's blind, was the first to take shelter in the RFS shed.
My friends were out in it. They were out in it.
It was the town's last resort for safety if things got really bad. And they had.
And the whole air just exploded, and all you saw was red.
Ron Trelfall was with his crew, 3 of which were his children.
And we ran to the truck and there was flames all over us. And we but anyway, we got the crew in.
Meanwhile, his wife Deb had taken the dogs and gotten out of there.
And I thought, how could I do that? And I looked and I thought, I'm never going to see my kids again, my husband.
And she almost didn't. They were among 12 now trapped inside the metal shelter as the fire front came over. The only thing saving their lives now was the sprinkler system on the outside.
When they realised what it was, there wasn't much you can do.
I remember sitting in the fire shed looking out those windows, and it just rained fire.
And then when the doors buckled in and we had sparks flying through the shed, I really kind of thought, wow, this could be it, this could be us.
Siobhan says the 20 minutes it took to pass felt like decades.
But man, I never want to go through that again.
Finally emerging to find
there's nothing left.
You could count the number of homes left standing on one hand. Collins was destroyed in 5 minutes.
So it burnt, everything burnt. There was nothing left, nothing.
Barb and Lyle's home was hit from both sides.
If you had the best fire gear in the whole world, you wouldn't have stopped it.
You said it took 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was all gone.
And Ash Graham not only lost his house, but his best friend.
Yeah, that's what's really affected me mentally. Losing my dog. Yeah, he just bolted home.
But the mental agony didn't end when the fires did in January. The memories haunt them.
You know, I think about what's happened and become quite emotional about it.
Many are still without proper roofs over their heads, and for some, the heartbreaking destruction is still yet to be cleared.
Now look at that, see?
But the ever-optimist Barb Stewart can always find a reason to smile.
See that? That's probably a little plate I painted way back. Huh. Perfect.
Her husband built their house 35 years ago, and they hope to be rebuilding again in a month.
It's home and it'll always be home.
After containing and surviving the bushfires, the Nerragunda community then overcame massive floods that threatened to take all they had saved. And now, along with the rest of us, they are battling the impacts of COVID-19, something they say has meant the world has slowed down so that they can catch up.
On the day of the fires, this was not the place to live, but during COVID, this is where you want to live.
A place where the people have each other's backs, where they can somehow still smile through their deep pain and know just how to lift each other's spirits, saving each other in more ways than one.
We'll always be there for one another when we're needed, and I think that's Nerragunda.
Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.